The thing sitting inside my tent had my face, but its eyes were bleeding black tears, and when it reached out toward me with my own hands, I knew I was about to die. But let me back up, because 3 days earlier, I thought I was the toughest guy alive. "I'm not scared of anything." That's what I screamed at my buddy as I peeled out of his driveway, heading straight for the most remote campsite in the Cascades. God, I was so wrong. Let me tell you how I went from fearless to absolutely terrified in just 72 hours. Because if you're thinking about solo camping, you need to hear this first. It all started when I hit rock bottom. I'm talking about the kind of depression where getting out of bed feels impossible, where every bridge you drive over whispers your name. I was drowning in my own thoughts, and my friend Tyler could see it. "Dude, you need to get away from everything," he said, leaning against his kitchen counter with that concerned look I'd been seeing too much lately. "Solo camping might clear your head. The silence, the solitude. It could do you good." He pulled out his phone and showed me a list of campsites. Some were popular, crowded with families and RVs. Others were more secluded. But there was one that caught my attention immediately. The most isolated spot on the entire list. Deep in the Cascade Mountains, a 2-hour hike from the nearest parking area, completely cut off from civilization. "You sure about that one?" Tyler's voice cracked slightly as I pointed to it. "I mean, it's pretty remote, especially for someone who's never camped alone before." He shrugged, but I could see the worry in his eyes. "Then again, the night sky out there is incredible. You'll definitely get some perspective." I was already grabbing my keys, feeling more energized than I had in months. The idea of complete isolation, of proving to myself that I could handle anything. It felt like exactly what I needed. But as I turned to leave, Tyler grabbed my arm. "Hey, listen carefully." His voice dropped to a serious whisper. "Don't go wandering around at night. No matter what you hear out there, bears, mountain lions, they'll mess you up bad if you stumble into them in the dark." I rolled my eyes and shook him off. "I'm not scared of anything, man." The drive into the mountains was incredible at first. Those winding roads snaking through towering pines, the air getting thinner and cleaner with every mile. I felt like I was shedding my old skin, leaving all my problems in the rearview mirror. I even locked my phone in the glove compartment, wanting to be completely disconnected from the digital world that had been suffocating me. 5 days and 4 nights, that's all I needed to reset my entire life. The parking area was basically just a dirt clearing with a wooden sign marking the trailhead. As I strapped on my backpack and checked my compass, I noticed how quiet it was. Not peaceful, quiet. Empty quiet, like the forest was holding its breath. The hike should have taken 2 hours, but I got turned around almost immediately. Following a map and compass when you're alone is way harder than it sounds. And these mountain trails, they have a way of looking identical after a while. Every tree starts to look the same. Every rock formation feels familiar. By the time I finally found the campsite, the sun was already setting, casting long shadows that seemed to reach for me through the trees. I hastily set up my tent and built a small fire, constantly looking over my shoulder. Every crack of a branch, every rustle of leaves made my heart jump. This wasn't the peaceful solitude I'd imagined. This felt like being watched. But I shook it off. Just first night jitters, right? I crawled into my sleeping bag and tried to will myself to sleep, listening to the fire pop and crackle outside. That's when I heard it. Crunch. A footstep in the leaves, clear as day. Then another, and another. I froze, barely breathing, my eyes wide open in the darkness of my tent. Someone, or something, was walking around my campsite. The footsteps were deliberate, circling my tent in a slow, methodical pattern. Whatever it was seemed to be trying to stay quiet, but the forest floor betrayed every step. This went on for hours. Stop, start, circle, stop, start, circle. I gripped my flashlight but didn't turn it on, terrified that any light might draw whatever was out there closer to me. My rational mind kept saying it was just a curious animal. Maybe a deer or elk checking out the strange new addition to its territory. Animals do that, right? They investigate. By dawn, the footsteps had finally stopped. I dozed fitfully for maybe an hour before forcing myself to get up and investigate. But when I emerged from my tent, there was nothing. No tracks, no disturbed ground, no sign that anything had been there at all. Just my imagination, I told myself. First night in the wilderness. Completely alone. Of course, my mind was playing tricks on me. I spent that day exploring the area, trying to shake off the unease from the night before. The campsite really was beautiful. A small clearing surrounded by massive Douglas firs, with a crystal-clear stream running nearby. In the daylight, it felt almost magical. I started to relax, thinking maybe Tyler had been right about this, helping clear my head. But as evening approached, that familiar anxiety crept back in. I built the fire bigger this time, gathering way more wood than I probably needed. The flames cast dancing shadows between the trees, and every flicker made me think I saw movement in my peripheral vision. I must have dozed off sitting by the fire, because I woke up disoriented and groggy. The flames had died down to glowing embers, and I could barely make out my surroundings in the dim red light. My watch said 3:17 a.m. That's when I realized I'd slept through the whole day. Panic hit me like a sledgehammer. How was that possible? I'd only meant to rest for an hour or two. Now it was the middle of the night again. And I was stuck here for another day, whether I wanted to be or not. The thought of hiking out in complete darkness was terrifying. I'd definitely get lost and end up in an even worse situation. I crawled into my tent and tried to calm down. But every fiber of my being was on high alert. The fire had almost completely died out, leaving me in near total darkness. And that's when they came back. The footsteps started again. But this time they were different, bolder, heavier. Instead of trying to be stealthy, whatever was out there seemed to be announcing its presence. Crunch, crunch, crunch. It was circling my tent again, but faster now, and closer, so much closer that I could hear breathing. Slow, deliberate breathing that didn't sound quite right. Not animal breathing, not exactly human either. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might burst. I sat up in my sleeping bag, gripping my flashlight with trembling hands. Then the side of my tent moved. Not like wind or a branch brushing against it, like something had deliberately pushed against the fabric. Then it happened again on the other side, then behind me. "Hey!" I yelled, my voice cracking with fear. "Hey! I'm awake in here!" The movement stopped immediately. Complete silence. I waited, barely breathing, for what felt like an eternity. Then, without thinking, I unzipped the tent flap and stumbled outside with my red-tinted flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing nothing. Just trees swaying slightly in the breeze. But at the very edge of the light, maybe 30 feet away, I saw something that made my blood freeze. A silhouette, human-shaped, standing perfectly still with its back to me. "What the hell, man?" I called out, trying to sound braver than I felt. The figure's head turned slightly, just slightly. And then it happened. Laughter, not normal laughter. This started as a low chuckle that built and built until it became a shrieking, maniacal cackle that echoed off the trees and seemed to come from everywhere at once, And the worst part, the absolute worst part, was that it sounded familiar. I ran. I dove back into my tent and curled up in my sleeping bag like a terrified child, tears streaming down my face. But the nightmare wasn't over. The tent started shaking violently, like dozens of hands were slapping and punching it from all sides. The sound was deafening. Thap, 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 thap. Mixed with the sound of feet running in circles around me. Not one person, multiple people, or things, all laughing in that horrible, echoing chorus. I don't remember falling asleep. I think I might have passed out from sheer terror. When I woke up, sunlight was filtering through the tent walls, painting everything in a reddish glow. I cautiously peeked outside, expecting to see evidence of the chaos from the night before. Nothing, again. No footprints, no handprints on the tent, no disturbed ground. It was like nothing had happened at all. "Screw this," I muttered, throwing my gear chaotically into my backpack. I was leaving. Today, right now. I didn't care if it was dangerous to hike alone. Staying here was worse. I started taking down the tent, pulling out the stakes and collapsing the poles one by one. But as I pulled the third pole out of 6, I noticed something wrong. The tent wasn't falling flat like it should have been. Confused, I peered inside, and my world shattered. There was someone sitting inside my tent. Not just someone, me. It was me. But wrong. So horribly wrong. Pale as bone, thin as a skeleton, with a grin stretched impossibly wide across my face. And the eyes. Oh God, the eyes. Instead of my normal green irises, they were completely black. Solid black. And from each eye, a single drop of blood rolled down like a tear. The thing that looked like me turned its head and stared directly at me. That same insane grin, that same terrible laughter. I screamed and stumbled backward, tripping over my own feet. The thing, the me that wasn't me, reached out from inside the tent with my own hand. Then, the other hand. Then it started crawling out, that sick smile never leaving its face. I ran. I ran harder than I'd ever run in my life, crashing through branches and underbrush without any idea where I was going. Behind me, that laughter followed, echoing through the trees like a pack of hyenas. And worse, the trees themselves seemed to be working against me. Branches caught my clothes. Roots trying to trip me. Low-hanging limbs slapped at my face like they were trying to slow me down, hold me back, keep me there until that thing caught up. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see myself chasing me through the forest. The thought was so surreal, so impossible. That part of my brain kept insisting this had to be a nightmare, but the scratches on my arms were real. The burning in my lungs was real. The terror was definitely real. Suddenly, a bright light flashed in my face, and I slammed into something solid, something that wrapped around me. I instantly cowered, hiding my face in my hands. "Leave me alone, please. Oh, God." Hey, calm down, a voice said. A human voice, a different voice. "You just scared me. What's wrong?" I looked up into the worried, gray eyes of a middle-aged man. He was holding me steady, his flashlight now pointing at the ground and casting strange shadows around us. I looked back fearfully, but there was nothing behind me, just trees swaying in the breeze. "Was that you screaming?" he asked, studying my face with concern. "I came out to investigate." I couldn't speak. I was shaking too hard, my teeth chattering despite the mild temperature. "Where's your campsite?" he continued. "You can't be out here alone." I nodded and started crying. Relief flooded through me. Another human being, someone real. "Hey, it's okay. The forest can be spooky at night. Come on, my vehicle's just over there." He gestured behind him. I finally found my voice. Are you a park ranger?" He glanced at me, then away. Something like that. But as we walked toward his vehicle, I noticed he didn't look like any park ranger I'd ever seen. He was wearing a smooth black suit, black tie, and a white dress shirt. His shoes were polished leather, not hiking boots. When he reached for my backpack, his jacket fell open slightly, and I caught a glimpse of what looked like a pistol strapped to his belt. "How did you find me?" I asked as we entered a small clearing where a matte black SUV sat idling, its tinted windows reflecting our approach. He shrugged. "Good hearing." He popped the trunk and threw my bag in while I climbed into the passenger seat. The interior was immaculate, all black leather and tinted glass. As he started driving, he reached between the seats and pulled out a bag of corn nuts. "Want some?" he offered. I took the bag gratefully and started eating, suddenly realizing how hungry I was. After a few minutes, I looked over at him. "So, are you really a ranger?" He stared straight ahead at the dirt road, not answering. I studied his profile in the dashboard lights. His hair was disheveled and dirty, and he looked exhausted, like he'd been up all night. Suddenly, the SUV jerked to a stop. The man took a slow, deep breath, his eyes narrowing as he stared at something ahead of us. "Shit," he muttered under his breath. I followed his gaze and felt my heart stop. There, standing in the middle of the road, was me. The same pale, skeletal version of myself that had been in my tent. Its limbs hung at odd angles like they were broken, and that sickening smile was still plastered across its face. As our headlights hit it, the thing raised one hand and waved. The man looked at me, then back at the thing, and back at me again. "I don't get paid enough for this shit," he muttered, then slammed his foot on the accelerator. We both felt the impact as the SUV hit the thing in the road. The car bounced sickeningly as we drove right over it, but the man didn't slow down. He kept his foot on the gas, driving faster down the mountain road. But around us, echoing through the trees on both sides, that familiar laughter rose up again, manic and persistent, following us as we fled. We reached the parking area in complete silence, just as the first light of dawn was breaking over the mountains. The man seemed deep in thought, distracted by something I couldn't understand. He popped the trunk and grabbed my backpack, handing it to me as I climbed out. "Thanks," I said, "for everything. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't found me." "No problem," he replied, though his voice sounded strange, distant. "All in a day's, or night's, work." I turned to walk toward my car, but he called out again. "Hey." I turned back to face him. "If you ever want to talk about what you saw out there, or just talk, call me." He held out a small white business card. I took it and looked down. It was completely blank except for a single phone number. No name, no company, no area code. "Thanks, I began, but when I looked up, he was already back in his SUV. He gave me a small wave, then sped off back toward the mountains, back toward that thing we'd run over. I stood there for a moment, watching his taillights disappear, then got in my car and drove home as fast as I legally could. That was 6 months ago. I still haven't told anyone about what happened out there. When people ask why I refuse every camping invitation, I just shrug and tell them I prefer hotels, warm beds and room service, the sound of traffic and people instead of whatever lives in those woods. But sometimes, late at night, I pull out that blank business card. I run my fingers over the number and wonder who that man really was, what he really was, and whether he could explain what I saw out there in the darkness. I wonder if he's still driving those mountain roads, looking for people like me, people who venture too far into places they don't belong. And I wonder if you've ever had an experience like mine, something that changed how you see the world. Maybe you understand why some stories need to be shared. even when no one will believe them. Because here's the thing, I'm still not scared of much, but I'll never go camping alone again. And if you're smart, neither will you. Some places are meant to stay empty. Some silences shouldn't be broken. And sometimes, the thing you should be most afraid of is yourself.